Hi, and welcome to a presentation given by the Shadow Server Foundation. Accessible RDP Report. A scan report for your network or constituency. Presentation aims and objectives. Introduce accessible RDP. Highlight a sample accessible RDP report. Describe key features of the report. Demonstrate how a national cert can action an accessible RDP report. For guidance on how to protect and secure RDP. Accessible RDP, a summary. RDP stands for Remote Desktop Protocol, developed by Microsoft. This protocol allows a user to access a remote PC or virtual apps and desktops. Misconfigured RDP instance can allow an attacker access to vulnerable hosts via network intrusion. Additionally, this also allows for information gathering on the target host via SSL certificate capture. In light of the pandemic, remote working makes RDP a high attack vector for brute force attack and also exploits. On the right of this slide, we have a diagram that shows a map highlighting globally by country Shadow Server's aggregated data of exposed RDP instances. Shadow Server internet-wide scanning. Shadow Server scans the entire IPv4 space for 70 different network protocols every day, and also performs IPv6 scans based on IPv6 hit lists for selected protocols. These are primarily hello type port application scans. Shadow Server does not exploit any vulnerability. Scans allow for identifying misconfigured, vulnerable or abusable devices, unnecessarily exposed attack surfaces, or just simply population enumeration scans. To find out more on how and why we scan, please visit the URL shown on this slide. Internet-wide scanning, RDP. RDP services are a popular attack vector. The goal of this scan project is to identify openly accessible systems that have the RDP service running and report them back to the network owners for notification. Therefore, we query all computers with routable IPv4 addresses that are not firewalled from the internet on port 3389 TCP with an RDP negotiation request and capture the response. If a host replies affirmatively, we follow that query up with an attempt to fetch the client's SSL certificate. Bluekeep, Common Vulnerability Exploit 2019-0708. Bluekeep is a remote code execution vulnerability that exists in remote desktop services, formerly known as terminal services, when an unauthenticated attacker connects to the target system using RDP and sends specially crafted requests. This vulnerability is pre-authentication and requires no user interaction. For more details on this vulnerability, please visit the Microsoft URL shown. Shadow Server Accessible RDP Scan checks for this vulnerability and also reports if it is found as part of the scan. Bluekeep scan results can be found in the CVE 2019-0708_vulnerable column, set to Y if a vulnerability is found. Accessible RDP Report. For further information on our dedicated RDP scanning project site, visit the following URL. The RDP report is available as a file in CSV format. The file name of the report contains scan_RDP. Reports can be sent to the consumer as email attachments or downloaded via HTTP or obtained via a RESTful API. All report timestamps are in UTC. Accessible RDP report. This slide shows a report extract of the RDP report as taken from our website. which includes a report summary, an overview of report fields, and a sample report CSV file. Please visit the URL shown on this slide for full details on the RDP report. An example scan report, actioning an accessible RDP instance. Looking at this slide, we have an example RDP report highlighting key report fields such as the timestamp of the event, the IP in question, the port number, and some related geolocation data. Looking at the next slide, these key fields and data allow a national cert to action the report by performing an IP whois lookup, as shown in this slide. The IP in question resolves to a German ISP, who is the responsible network owner. As a result, the national cert can now coordinate with the German ISP for the IP to be remediated. Accessible RDP, protect. Ensure your network devices are up to date and patched. Use two-factor authentication and implement lockout policies. Implement firewall management to restrict RDP sessions by IP address. Limit RDP access to a specific user group and disable domain admin to access RDP. Tunnel access via VPN, IPsec, and SSH. Implement network monitoring for anomalous detections, for example, repeated failed attempts from unknown external IP access. Verifying our results. False positives are not really possible with this scan. If you would like to test your own device to verify it has RDP accessible, try the nmap command, nmap-v script equals SSL -cert -p 3389 and quote your IP. Make sure your queries are not being filtered. Remember, the scan results we share are for the previous day with up to a 24-hour delivery delay. Thanks for listening to our presentation. Please consider subscribing. By doing so, you will join an ever-growing community of internet defenders dedicated to the pursuit of a more safer and a more secure internet.